Welcome to Commanders Daily, everybody. It's your one-stop shop for everything going on with the Burgundy and Gold. I'm Bob Matthews. Don't forget, hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss an episode of it. All right, it is roster cutdown day, but before we get to that, let me be the first here at Commanders Daily to wish Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift a very happy engagement and hopefully a very long and successful marriage. This is also a bit self-serving because if the boys in the home office now want to tag this video with both Kelce and Taylor, we can see, exactly how many extra views we're going to get once it hits the algorithm. As always, I like to try and stay, as transparent as humanly possible with all of you guys out there because you've been so good to us. All right. Now back to our regularly scheduled program. So roster cuts today, Commanders have gotten down to 53. They will add however many. I'm not good at math at this time of night. About 17 guys to the practice squad here soon. Were there any surprises? Not really, because you pretty much know who's making the roster. I think the one, I saw a couple, but again, it's more end of the line type of stuff. I kind of thought, although based on his play in the games, I thought Michael Gallup had a shot to make it, being a veteran, but he didn't. I kind of thought the tight end room would go the way it did with John Bates, Zach Ertz, Colson Yankoff, and Ben Sinnott making the list, and Cole Turner getting cut. Turner, I guess, a little bit of a surprise, but he just didn't have a good camp, and this team is at the point now where if you don't have a good camp, odds are you're going to be in trouble. Now, Luke McCaffrey, I think, probably had a better camp than a lot of people are giving him credit for. Has been getting open a lot, just hasn't been getting the ball thrown to him. He made the roster as the fifth receiver. It's Terry, Debo, Jalen, Noah Brown, and then McCaffrey. On the defensive side, I'm really glad to see UDFA Ali Cahoe make it because that guy played with some serious reckless abandon at linebacker. Wasn't drafted. Again, he was an undrafted free agent signee. But I tell you what, it's going to be interesting to see what he can do because he plays with a lot of speed out there and a lot of violence. So I'll be interested to see if he gets some time coming up, if he gets any meaningful snaps this year. The cornerback room looks like this: Trey Amos, Marshawn Lattimore, Mikey Sainristil, Noah Igbinoghene, and Jonathan Jones. And if you didn't hear, they're shopping. Apparently, reports say that the Commanders are shopping Noah Igbinoghene, probably take a fourth or fifth round pick for him as they, again, try to recoup some of that draft capital from the trades during the offseason. But again, not much of a surprise there. Not much of a surprise as I look down the list at the safeties either. Quan Martin and Will Harris are going to be your starters. But I am really interested to see how much time this year Jeremy Reeves gets at safety because he played really, really well in the preseason when he was out there. Again, I might be reading too much into it by, 3 weeks into the season, we may be just, talking about the usual starting 22. I'm not going to go through all of the position groups because there's just, there's too many of them to go through. Kept 9 defensive linemen, though. Deron Payne, Javon Kinlaw, Dietrich Wise, Dorrance Armstrong, Johnny Newton, Javante John Baptiste, who Jacob Martin and Eddie Goldman. So, a couple Cleveland Farrell, one of the guys, I guess, that was a mild surprise getting cut. And on the offensive line, look for one of these guys not to stick around past about week 4 or 5. All right, Laramie Tunstall's going to be here. Brandon Coleman, Tyler Biotish, Nick Allegretti, Andrew Wiley, Josh Connerly Jr., Trent Scott, Chris Paul, George Fant. Out of those, I'm looking at guys that can play guard. Chris Paul may be on the hot seat there, and the reason I say that is because Sam Cosmi is officially starting the year on the PUP list, which means he is not eligible to play until week 4 at the very earliest. Probably there'll be a lot of practice squad moves later on today, And you got to think that, Adam Peters is not through tinkering with this lineup at all. Look for him to probably churn the bottom of the roster for quite a few more weeks, if not, the rest of the season. A little bit more on Terry McLaurin's new contract. Terry's going to talk a little bit later today to the media, so hopefully we'll get a little bit more insight into it. Thought it was interesting, though, that after his agent, Buddy Baker put out the initial information through, the reporters that he works with about it being a 3-year extension and $94 million and a $30 million signing bonus. You hadn't heard anything else. Now, the club isn't going to say anything. They'll just send the paperwork into the league, and then it'll get leaked out to, websites like Sport Track and stuff. But I'm wondering if the guaranteed money is nowhere near the $60 or $70 million mark. And the reason I say that is because you would think after, almost more than a day now, we would have heard these totals from Terry's camp, but they haven't put them out. I contrast that by saying Diana Rossini, who is as connected as anybody at NFL circles, was saying that she thinks this was a win for Terry and that when the numbers come out, she seems to indicate they are going to be, somewhere on the low end of the $60 million mark. Hopefully we find out sometime tomorrow. It just remains to be seen. But of course, the important thing is that Terry is not only back on the practice field, but will be back week 1. Mentioned a couple of minutes ago, but according to sources out there, Noah Igbinoghene, the backup cornerback, high pick from the Dolphins a few years ago, and a 10-game starter for the Commanders last year. Apparently, the team is shopping him, saying that he is on the trading block. And heavens knows there are plenty of clubs out there that can use a good defensive back. He was a good one last year, pretty dependable for the Commanders. Did get a lot of play during the preseason, which leads you to believe that maybe one of the things that the team was doing was showcasing him, trying to get him, trying to get something back from him for him. The numbers work out. He's on a 1-year deal. He's making about $1.5 million, so he fits under just about everybody's salary cap with literally no commitment beyond this year. And again, they probably this also means they like some of the young kids that they had to release. Some of them that'll be on the practice squad and, maybe might get, called up to the active 53. Either that or they think they can do better on the free agent market once the other cuts are made. Again, we will just have to see. All right, let's go ahead and hit the mailbag. Remember, anything at all that you want to talk about, feel free to hit us up. Drop us a comment in the box. In Hell Baby 1 says it shouldn't be about who won. Terry Peters and all the fans won. I completely agree with you, but it is, it's interesting, to see what the numbers actually are when they come out because of the fact that, and, the NFL only has themselves to blame for it. They're the ones that came up with these rules that let people, cut around the edges of the salary cap all the time. So, hey, it is what it is. And it's, you can say the NFL is a little disingenuous about it. Of course, considering the fact it gets us to talk about it more, maybe they're a little crazy like a fox on that one. Let's see. You ain't first, you're last. Bro, weapons list stands right by Debo. You ain't first, you're last. I could have sworn that I mentioned Debo in there. But if I didn't, yeah, you're right. Oops, that one would be my bad. Yeah, Debo, pretty high up on the weapons list that Jaden Daniels has to work with this year. I think you're right. I think defenses are going to have to account from him. And at Scott Dean 5024, I'll bet a phone call was made to AP from the top. Not so sure about that. I mean, I guess anything is possible, Scott. But, one of the things about Josh Harris that we've seen since he bought the team is that he's hired football guys, and unlike the previous regime, he lets the football guys do the football job. and he concentrates on the business side of it. But hey, who knows? All right, that's going to do it for us. We got to get on out of here. Don't forget, hit that like and subscribe button. Commanders back on the practice field tomorrow. Terry McLaurin talks to reporters. So does Adam Peters and Dan Quinn about the final roster cuts. It ought to be an interesting and a busy day tomorrow. We'll talk about it all with you on Thursday. Remember, like the wise man once said, if you're on your bike tonight, as always, do wear white.